Hello and welcome to my reaction, some more epic history, and today we've got the second episode of the Rise of China, and this is the Generalissimo, which isn't that like an Italian term, I would assume, but maybe it applies specifically here. I don't know, maybe it will be explained, but yeah, I'm not doing this on the stream, today I'm doing a separate video. I really wanted to watch it, the episode came out yesterday for me, and I don't know, as some of you guys know, the main reason I react to so much epic history is that I've watched all of their videos before, right? And I watch all reaction that people do to their videos, and I never feel like there's enough reactions, so I guess I'm doing my own to at least their new stuff, because I can't really go back to the older stuff as I've seen everything. Napoleon series, Belisarius, Kolchak, etc., the history of Russia, World War I, I've seen all that. So yeah, I can only check out the new videos, but yeah, you can find my reaction to part 1 of this. Really interesting stuff. Obviously, the end of the Qing dynasty, was it? A lot of conflict, a lot of like rival, generals, I guess, fighting, ton of craziness. I think we left, it was like in the 30s, 1930s. Let's continue. I'm sure there'll be a recap. Link for the original video in the description, the link to the Epic History channel, my Discord, stream element, and Patreon. Patreon, best way to support me. Check it out. And yeah, let's check this out. The world under heaven, long divided, must unite. Long united, must divide. Thus it has ever been. Or Romance of the Three Kingdoms. That sounds pretty cool. The Chiang's rise to power.
1925, 13 years after the abdication of China's last emperor, the country remains in turmoil. It is being torn apart by warring factions, with around 1.5 million men under arms.
That's a lot.
In the capital, Peking, millions mourn the death of revolutionary leader Sun Yat-sen, who had seemed to many to offer a brighter future. But his plan to defeat the warlords and unite the country under Kuomintang rule lives on in his successor, a 37-year-old party official, Chiang better known in the West as Chiang Kai-shek.
Yeah.
As commander of the Kuomintang's Wampu military.
As I said before, I know a lot about him from the World War II series by Time Ghost History on YouTube, and we see, he's leading one side of China, I guess, during World War II.
Academy. Chiang has earned a reputation as a charismatic, effective and ambitious leader. He attended military school in Japan, where he first met Sun Yat-sen and joined the revolutionary cause in 1908. At the time of Sun's death, much of China is dominated by warlords, an assortment of ambitious generals and regional leaders who command their own private armies, and whose first loyalty is to themselves.
It's kind of crazy, yeah? 1920s, and, it's described like that, but yeah, warlords fighting, like you'd think something, couple hundred years before that, just the era of warlords, the Three Kingdoms, stuff like that. It's kind of crazy. This was only like 100 years ago. 1925, 100 years. Sorry, 100 years ago, yeah. It was just then.
Kuomintang, also referred to as the Nationalists, control only the southern provinces of Guangxi and Guangdong, and its capital, Canton. To strengthen its position, they've made an uneasy alliance with the Communist Party to form the First United Front. This means they now receive support from the Soviet Union. But many Kuomintang members, including Chiang, are distrustful of Soviet intentions.
Well, yeah. For both sides, it's like, you help me, but once we stabilize things, you're probably going to be my next target. Both sides are probably looking at it like that. So accepting help from the Soviet Union is definitely, it's dangerous even if you need it, because then they might have enough strength to take you over.
A recent visit to Russia has convinced him that communism is not suitable for China. Yet there is a widespread hunger for change in China. The people are fed up with the chaos, the warlords, and foreign interference. 1925 sees a rise in labor and anti-imperialist movements. When the multinational Shanghai police open fire on protesters, there are large-scale strikes in southern cities. The ranks of both the Kuomintang and Chinese Communist Party swell with new recruits. But the suspicion between these two unnatural allies lingers. And in 1926, Chiang decides to strike first.
Okay.
Alleging an imminent communist plot, he launches his own preemptive coup. He declares martial law in Canton and has political rivals and Soviet advisors arrested or expelled. He also expels communists from the Whampoa Military Academy, including a rising star of the party, 28-year-old political commissar Zhou Enlai.
I've heard that name before.
Chiang's decisive action strengthens his grip on both the Kuomintang military and nationalist party. What's more, the Soviets, desperate to maintain any kind of influence in China, agree to continue their military support. The first united front is just about intact.
But will there be backlash for that?
Set out to fulfill Sun Yat-sen's dying aspiration, a northern expedition to defeat China's warlords and unite the country under Kuomintang rule.
This fight is important not only because it will decide the fate of the warlords, but also whether the Chinese nation and race can restore their freedom and independence. Chiang Kai-shek, 26. Man, you know, I was just thinking, like, I was remembering that, like, this is happening in the 20s, and this is at the same time as the, I think it's called the Holodomor, right, in Russia? Like, an insane period of millions of people dying as well, right? From poverty, famine, and I guess the Soviet Union's policies against everybody. I forget the exact details, but yeah, I think this is at the same time as that. It's kind of crazy, yeah? Just absolute madness. I mean, World War I ended just not even 10 years ago, and the 20s are... I feel like I never really heard about it until I watched more history video, but yeah, the 20s are just insane. Yeah. Then the 30s are maybe a bit more chill, a bit, before obviously like things go mad again, you know, at the end of the 30s with World War II. The Northern Expedition.
The most powerful warlord in the north is Zhang Zuolin. He controls the Beiyang government in Peking, which remains the internationally recognized government of China.
Really?
In central China, the dominant figure is Wu Peifu, the Jade Marshal. His ally, Sun Quanfang, controls several eastern provinces and the cities of Nanking and Shanghai. In the south, Chiang's forces, known as the National Revolutionary Army, are 100,000 strong. He knows that when he marches north, his men will be heavily outnumbered. But his troops are better trained, have some modern Soviet equipment, plus their own warlord allies, Li Zongren, Feng Yuxiang, and Yan Xishan.
I was gonna say, but what's the goal of the warlord though? Like, they should know that, I mean, it is still like in the 1920s, it is still somewhat a more modern world than before. So like them being these independent warlords, like it's not going to work out. You know, things are like they're definitely going to be sorted up by, you know, someone else. Or do they actually also have like a goal of like forming their own government and, you know, with their own vision? Or are they like, it's because you use the word warlord, but are they literally like warlord? I don't know, trying to gain power in their own place and loot stuff? Is that just it?
Chiang plans to take on the hostile warlords with a methodical northern advance. In the first months of the war, his northern expedition makes rapid advances. By April, the Kuomintang control southern China's most important cities, including Wuhan, Shanghai, and Nanking. First, Wu Peifu, then Sun Quanfang are driven from their strongholds. Zhang Zuolin alone holds out in the north. Many warlord troops switch sides, swelling Chiang's National Revolutionary Army.
That's what I was thinking, like, the troops of the warlord, like, the only reason to follow them is if they get something out of it. I guess it's probably not some political ideology, so it probably wouldn't be too hard to switch side, right? As long as the warlord are not doing well, you know?
To a gigantic force, some 700,000 strong. Victory and a unified China seem within reach.
But China needs the Chinese Mussolini. No, you don't. Who said that? North China standard. Okay. I mean, I guess it's the 20s, so, you know, if you just read the news at the time and just look from, like, you know, across the other side of the world, yeah, maybe, you know, people think it's a good thing, right? Obviously, we all know where it goes with Mussolini and fascism and all that, but maybe from just, like, you know, newspaper and just a little bit of news you hear, it seems pretty good. The Shanghai Massacre.
As National Revolutionary Army troops advance on Peking, tensions between its Kuomintang and communist factions resurface. Chiang Kai-shek is increasingly distrustful of his Soviet advisors and concerned at the communists' growing confidence. His suspicions appear to be confirmed as NRA troops approach Shanghai. A few days before their arrival, Zhou Enlai and other communists use a workers' uprising to seize control of the city. But Chiang has his own powerful connections in Shanghai. Du Yueshang, aka Big Ear Du, triad leader and kingpin of the Shanghai underworld,
the triad was
a personal ally of Chiang Kai-shek. In the early hours of the 12th of April 1927, Du orders his Green Gang to attack the communists and trade unionists who've taken over the city. Thousands of Shanghai workers take to the streets in protest. Chiang's Kuomintang troops open fire on them.
Well.
Over the next days and weeks, some 12,000 communists are killed or disappeared in Shanghai alone. The first united front has ended in blood and betrayal.
It was bound to happen.
The Shanghai Massacre is just the first of many purges in which the Kuomintang hunts down communists in territory they control.
In a way, I get the point, right? Like, from their side, it's like, yeah, they don't want communism to win and to take over the country, so just repress it. But as we've seen many times throughout history, yeah, like, you know, it often backfire, and that's what happened with China, right? Obviously. I guess, you know, suppressing the people will make more people feel that, like, you know, maybe they're suppressing it because they're afraid of it, because maybe it's the right thing, and it will make people, like, feel like it's unfair, and they need to rise up and join this cause. And yeah, I mean, this was clearly the wrong move, but at the same time, the other option was to just not go this extreme and see what happens, like, either communism rise even more and just overtakes you before you could do anything, or not. I don't know. I mean, still, the better choice would have been to not just kill people, right? Obviously.
The communists react by orchestrating uprisings across the country. Zhou Enlai, who is lucky to escape Shanghai alive, leads an armed uprising against Kuomintang rule in Nanchang. The following month, Mao Zedong leads the Autumn Harvest Uprising in Hunan and Jiangxi provinces. In December, a third uprising takes place in Canton. All three are swiftly crushed by Kuomintang forces. But there is no doubt that a brutal new front has opened in China's revolutionary struggles.
The spark has been lit.
As the communists fight for survival, Chiang's northern expedition resumes its advance.
Damn, look at this.
He now targets the last hostile warlord standing, Zhang Zuolin. On the 6th of June 1928, In a moment of great symbolism, Kuomintang troops enter Peking, the old imperial capital. Chiang retreats across the Great Wall
Still has
into
a lot of
Manchuria,
territory.
a region under heavy Japanese political and economic influence. There is also a large Japanese military presence here. The Guan
Wasn't Manchuria where Russia and Japan fought, like in the Russo-Sino-Japanese War? I think it was called. I think it was like 1905 or something. Wasn't it over there? Over like railway or something? So I guess at one point it was Soviet? Or was it always China and just the Soviet took it over?
Dong Army.
It was probably always China.
The Japanese have supported Chiang for several years, but now decide he has outlived his usefulness.
Well,
As Chiang travels north by train, his carriage is destroyed by a massive bomb. It had been planted by a Japanese officer. The Japanese military hope for better results from Chiang's 27-year-old son, Jiang Shuiliang.
okay.
But the young marshal, as he becomes known, has his own ideas. In July, Jiang Jr. opens negotiations with the Kuomintang.
I mean,
In return for pledging allegiance to Chiang, he will hold on to his father's old power base in northeast China.
okay. Smart move.
Finally, after a decade of internal struggle, China is unified with a single flag, a single capital, and a single leader, Chiang Kai-shek.
And everything was great after that.
But it won't be long before he faces his first major revolt.
Well,
In 1929, Chiang proposes a major reorganization of the National Revolutionary Army. He wants to halve its size from around 1.5 million men to 715,000.
makes sense if it's
and
peacetime.
split its troops into 65 divisions of 11,000 men. His generals, many of whom had previously served China's warlords, correctly see this as an attempt to undermine their power. A group of them form an anti-Chiang.
I mean, I guess that is definitely probably the case as well, but also just the obvious. I mean, having an army of 1.5 million men is kind of insane if the civil war isn't dead, the war isn't dead. I mean, 1.5 million men in the army in relative peacetime is just insane. Or is it? I guess China is absolutely massive. So, like, maybe you need that amount? I don't know.
Coalition and plunge China back into civil war.
And here we go again.
The Central Plains War, as it is known, pits Kuomintang forces against their former warlord allies. Around 1 million soldiers take part in the fighting. Chiang Kai-shek suffers a series of early setbacks, but eventually regains control, thanks to support from Jiang, the young marshal. Victory comes at huge human and economic cost.
Well, yeah.
And after a generation of revolution and war, Chiang Kai-shek has once more stamped his military authority on the country. Now,
It just doesn't stop. I mean, it's like, it's just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I mean, every time, he sings or like you think that things are fine for now, there's another group that's not happy about something that just, start something. And I guess as always, it's the meme of like, something tiny happens in China and suddenly like there's millions of dead. That's the meme that people say usually about like ancient China, right? And the massive conflict. But looking at this, it kind of feels like that. Yeah, like, I wouldn't say it's something like tiny. A lot of this makes sense, but it's like every 1-2 years, like there's another massive conflict and massive war and 10 people die. It's insane.
he faces the next daunting challenge: to transform the Republic of China into a united, prosperous, independent state.
If we do not rid the present body of corruption, bribery, idleness, and ignorance, the day will soon come when the revolution will be started against us. Chiang Kai-shek, 1936. I mean, it's a smart quote, but by at the same time, trying to crack down on all of this will also potentially like lead to more revolution from like some of those groups. So there's just no winning. Yeah, just don't be a leader of a country. Otherwise, it's just a mess. That's the lesson I've learned from this video. The Nanking Decade.
Chiang establishes his one-party government in Nanking, a former capital of the Ming dynasty. These years are known as the Nanking Decade, a period of sustained Kuomintang governance, across eastern China at least. In fact, the country's unity is paper-thin. Yeah. Only Nanking and its surrounding area are under direct Kuomintang control. Most of the country is still governed by warlords, more or less loyal to Chiang's government. The communists, meanwhile, are down but not out, and form pockets of resistance throughout the country. In power, Chiang Kai-shek is referred to as the Commander-in-Chief, or Generalissimo, and becomes increasingly authoritarian.
Okay.
To unite the country around a homegrown alternative to communism, he launches the New Life movement, reviving Confucian ideas to fit the times. Chiang's wife, Song Mei-ling, US-educated and from a prominent Chinese Christian family, plays a leading role. The impact of the New Life movement is limited, but by the early 30s, parts of China are rapidly modernizing.
It seems to be like, in China, it seems to be like a concept that they do a lot, right? Later on, there's like, Mao does a bunch of stuff like that where, I don't know if there's a specific name for it, but like, to change the country, they try to like have this kind of like official culture that they decide by themselves rather than just like, the culture is something that happens naturally. They always try to like impose this decided by the government culture. Yeah, I didn't realize this was already this thing with Chiang Kai-shek. I've heard of the Cultural Revolution and stuff like that and stuff that Mao was doing. But yeah, it's very, at least from what I think, specific concept, like trying to just tell people what the culture should be, I guess. Like in such a defined way is what I mean. Does that make sense?
New laws promote gender equality and protect women's rights in marriage and property ownership.
Good, obviously.
Education continues to spread. Newspapers, magazines and journals proliferate. New cinemas and theaters open. Infrastructure projects help the Chinese economy to industrialize. And there is huge foreign investment.
Damn, that much from Japan. That's interesting. They invest so much in the country that they, like, just a couple years later, I think it started like a year or two before World War II, right? They eventually invade and try to conquer.
Especially from Japan. Though there are complaints of widespread corruption within Chiang's inner circle.
Yeah.
And yet, 85% of China's population are peasants. Their lot has not improved since the time of the Qing. They remain desperately poor and benefit little from developments in cities like Nanking and Shanghai. Instead, many face a perfect storm of soil exhaustion, erosion, and rising rents. They are largely ignored by the Kuomintang government, but not by the communists, who are actively spreading their message across the countryside.
Smart, huh?
To add to the woes of the rural poor, in 1931, catastrophic flooding devastates central and eastern China. The scale of death and destruction is almost unimaginable.
Man, they can't catch a break.
Estimates range from 1 to 4 million lives lost.
So, like, even if there's not a war going on, something like this, that is insane. Is that like one of the worst modern, like, natural disaster? I mean, I don't know much of the history of the natural disaster, but that's insane. Like, over 1 million people dead is insane.
It's one of the worst natural disasters in human history.
Well, sorry for pausing. The Japanese are a disease of the skin, the communists are a disease of the heart. What does that mean? Disease of the skin. The Mukden Incident.
While the Republic of China struggles with its many challenges, foreign rivals look to take advantage.
As
For
always.
decades, Japan has been extending its territory and influence at the expense of neighbors. Now, against a backdrop of heightened militarism and nationalism, some in Japan see China as the obvious target for further imperial expansion. Japan already has enormous influence in northeast China and owns railways, factories and mines in the region.
I see.
Now their sights are set on the conquest of all Manchuria, rich in resources that Japan lacks.
Not the first time I reacted to the TV show Shogun recently, which takes place in like 1590s, I think. And just before that, there was the Imjin War between like Japan and Korea, where China actually helped Korea, and Japan conquered most of Korea, or went through most of it. And then they actually tried to touch it a bit into Manchuria before stopping. They also wanted it, I guess.
On the night of the 18th of September 1931, outside the city of Mukden, an explosion destroys a section of the Japanese-controlled South Manchurian Railway. But it's a false flag operation. The bomb has been planted by rogue officers from the Japanese Guangdong Army to provide a pretext for the conquest of Manchuria.
Oh, okay, so this is where it starts, yeah.
Ignoring Chinese and international protests, Japanese forces attack. Within
That's
3
right.
months, their troops control most of northeastern China, driving back local Chinese forces commanded by Chiang, the young marshal. All of China is outraged, but Chiang Kai-shek will not be lured into a general war with Japan. Internal pacification before external resistance, he insists.
Okay.
His strategy will be to trade space for time, and he orders Chiang
Guess
to
you get a ton of
retreat.
space.
Japan creates its own puppet state in northeast China, named
Manchukuo.
Manchukuo. On the throne, the Japanese place China's deposed Qing Emperor, Puyi,
Yeah.
now 26 years old.
Okay, I didn't think he would come back. I guess I know a little bit of stuff after that from the, again, the World War II series by Indian Idol and Time Goes to Story. The whole stuff about, this whole theater of war, right? Which you don't really hear much otherwise, but they go pretty in depth. Has there ever been in history been a long march like ours? No, never. The long march is a manifesto. I was thinking, when is the long march? It's coming. Yeah. Legendary.
As far as Chiang Kai-shek is
March.
concerned, it is the communists, not the Japanese, who pose the greatest threat to Kuomintang rule. Just 10,000 Communist Party members escaped the purges of 1927. Now they have regrouped in the Chinese countryside. Several Chinese Soviets, or regional governments, have formed in remote rural pockets across China. The most successful is the Jiangxi Soviet. Its chairman is Mao Zedong. The son of a wealthy farmer, Mao was a founding member of the Chinese Communist Party. Now he presides over the Jiangxi Soviet, where the communist leadership is based. It controls a total population of more than 3 million, with its own bank, currency and tax system.
It's massive.
But Mao is criticized by other party leaders for his ruthless purges of communist forces and loses influence. Zhou Enlai takes over his role in the military leadership. The Jiangxi Soviet.
I've heard his name. I think he leads the Long March at first or something, but he does bad, so Mao comes back eventually to lead it, and then he does well, and that's why he becomes really appreciated.
Soviet is the blueprint for a Chinese communist revolution. For the Kuomintang government, it is an existential threat.
Yeah.
Chiang Kai-shek plans a series of encirclement campaigns to isolate and eradicate the communists. His troops face determined resistance from the Communist Red Army.
Damn.
The first, second, third and fourth encirclement campaigns all fail.
Really?
The
Yeah, that's
war
strong.
between these two sides is brutal and leads to suffering on a vast scale.
Yeah, I mean,
Civilians, mostly peasants, find themselves caught between two ruthless forces who do not hesitate to carry out mass executions and torture and shoot anyone suspected of disloyalty. Victims include Mao's own wife, shot by the Kuomintang for refusing to denounce her husband. The death toll from this phase of China's civil war will...
I mean, again, when you think about it, it's really like, you know, like Chiang Kai-shek's side just cannot win, right? Like, they have to fight the communists to stop them. But if they fight them, you know, obviously, like, stuff like this will happen. And, you know, they might get some people that are actually communist, some that are not. And those that are not, you know, because you killed one of the family member or something, accusing them of something they were not, then it's going to make them even more want to join, like, you know, the communist side. So no matter what, they were just making things worse, you know. Like, I understand the idea is, you know, crush them so they can't be a problem, but by trying to crush them, you're just making more people want to resist and be part of the underdog movement, maybe. I mean, I'm sure there's more reason than that, but that's how I think of it.
will never be known, but maybe as high as 500,000.
It's just non-stop. Like, every year, like, in those videos about China, like, every single year from, like, you know, the last 10, 20 years right now, it's like 1 million dead per year or something at least. From some madness, be it war, like famine or natural disaster.
Finally, in September 1934, Chiang Kai-shek musters nearly 1 million men to surround,
1 million.
blockade and destroy the Jiangxi Soviet. This time, the weakened communists cannot hold the line.
Yeah,
They gradually lose ground
1 billion.
until around 100,000 soldiers and civilians remain in a small area around Ruijin.
They have a gap, though.
The communist leadership takes the fateful decision to abandon Jiangxi and live to fight another day. Many are killed trying to break out of the Kuomintang trap.
Yeah, I think very few will live.
The survivors embark on an epic, year-long march led by Zhou Enlai and Mao Zedong. They cross some of China's most forbidding terrain, battling enemy forces, hunger and exhaustion along the way. Fewer than
Insane.
1 in 10 of the Jiangxi communists complete the 6,000-mile
1
march
in
to
10.
Yan'an, where they meet up with communist comrades from around the country.
Insane.
This astonishing feat becomes a founding legend of the Chinese Communist Party. The Long March.
On one side, yeah, I can't deny it. I mean, looking at it, it's kind of epic. It's kind of like motivating. But if you look into it, like 1 in 10 of the people who did it survived. I mean, even though it's incredible that they still made it and some survived. If you really think about it, the amount of people that died for it, was it really worth it? You know what I mean? Like you want to glorify the event because it's kind of fast, but it's also like, yeah, 1 in 10 survived. Does that really sound a good message about, leadership or, anything, right?
Mao's leadership secures his place at the top of the party, at the expense of his Soviet-backed rivals. From now on, the party will follow Mao's vision, not Moscow's. For the moment, communist prospects look bleak. They have been decimated and are on the run. But their fortunes are about to take a dramatic turn.
What happens next? Look at the map and note the smallness of Japan compared to China. Can anyone doubt that we shall triumph? I mean, that's what I was gonna say earlier, like, it's still crazy to think, like, even though Japan really believed in, like, the timing because China is in a mess, and Japan believes in their strength and military, I mean, it just seems insane, you know what I mean, to actually try to conquer China, or even a bit of it, because it's so massive, they have so many men, and, Japan in comparison is tiny and has much less people. So even if like the Chinese armies were terrible, it just has endless wave of men, right? I mean, maybe you could compare it to like the Soviet versus Germany in World War II. Though Germany had a ton of men, and overall they were like more for like the greatness of the troops, the training, the equipment, while the Soviet had like insane amount of troops to send, like endless, right? So maybe it's kind of similar to that, yeah. Xi'an Incident.
December 1936. Chiang travels to Xi'an in northern China to visit Chiang, the young marshal. His troops are leading the fight against the communists in their new northern base. It's 8 years since Jiang's father had been assassinated by the Japanese. 3 years later, they'd driven his army out of Manchuria. He is infuriated by Chiang's refusal to challenge the Japanese, and he's come up with a bold plan. Chiang kidnaps Chiang Kai-shek and forces him to negotiate face-to-face with the communists.
Okay.
Represented by Zhou Enlai. After 2 weeks of talks, Chiang Kai-shek gives in. Having promised to end the internal fighting and confront the Japanese, he is released.
What a mess.
As soon as Chiang's safely back in Nanking, he has Chiang placed under house arrest. But on the crucial point, he keeps his word.
Okay.
Chiang agrees to form an alliance with his communist enemies, a second united front, to take.
I mean, I don't know, like, I guess it's a good thing in a moment, right? Like, I understand why he was ignoring the Japanese for a while, like, just take care of the internal enemy first, otherwise how can you even properly fight the external enemy? But yeah, now they're adding again, and we know that as soon as Japan is dealt with, they start fighting again. Like, they both, I'm sure, expect that.
Take on Japan. On the night of the 7th of July 1937, a small detachment of Japanese soldiers demands to enter the walled town of Wanping, close to Peking, to search for a missing soldier. The Chinese garrison refuses. Tensions rise.
That's a gun.
A shot rings out from a Chinese position. Then, both sides open fire. One of the bloodiest wars of the 20th century has just begun.
It's kind of the beginning of World War II, right? People usually say like Germany's a version of Poland, but it's kind of is, no?
Do you want to watch unreleased new epic history videos right now?
I
Do you
wish.
fancy diving into the French Revolutionary Wars with a brand new video on the Battle of Valmy?
Oh,
A critical moment in French and European
I'm
history.
interested.
Or joining us on a journey through 2,000 years of global history as we chart the spread of Christianity through conversions, conquests, and colonies.
They're
If you
cooking.
want to see both these videos right now, weeks before they
I can't pay for Patreon though. It is what it is. I'll have to wait. And I mean, even if I paid for it, then I couldn't react to it, right? Because then I would be reacting to something under a paywall, so that would be bad. So I guess I will wait. I will wait. One day for sure, you know, one day when I make enough money to justify it, this is one of those channels that I'd love to actually support. Man, a lot of stuff to look forward to, I guess. The continuation of like American Revolution videos, China videos, and then like Battle of Valmy, spread of Christianity, like some interesting stuff. They're really cooking. I feel like for a while, like Epic History, they were pretty slow in terms of like starting different series, but now they're doing quite a lot. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. So yeah, great video. Great video. Very interesting. I mean, you know, I'd always heard that like this time period for China was bad, right? And I had heard like little points here and there about some of the stuff that happened, but this video going into much more detail is pretty insane. I mean, in the 20s and the 30s, it's like every year or every 2 years, there's just like millions of people dying over like war, famine, natural disaster. It's much more insane than I ever realized. It is just non-stop. I mean, like, in a way, you can say maybe it makes a little bit of sense, because they were like China helped in World War I believe, by sending mostly workers, but they weren't directly fighting. So I don't think they lost like a ton of people from World War I, right? Compared to all the other nations, which, you know, I'm not saying they were peaceful. There was still a lot of mess, right? I mean, think about freaking like Russia, right, and the Holodomor in the 20s. But still, China still was like, for the most part, like not hurt as badly from World War I. So yeah, I guess you know, like there was much more of the amount of people needed for like all this madness to happen, this amount of people dying, and this type of war to go on. Yeah, it's insane. It's depressing and insane. All I can say, but insanely interesting. Super interesting video as always. It's crazy. So yeah, looking forward to the next part whenever it comes out. And yeah, looking forward to more epic history reaction. There's so little. If you guys ever watch any YouTuber that you think would be doing some reaction to that, I mean, definitely recommend it to them. Definitely. That'd be great. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys next time. See you.